Okay, students of class 4, let us see our poem, the first poem that we have in our book this year, My Shadow. Okay, if you remember, even in class 2, in your previous book that we are using is Frames, and Frames book of class 2 also had a similar poem on shadow. So here is another poem, My Shadow, by Robert Louis Stevenson. Okay, here about the author. Robert Louis Stevenson was born on 13 November 1850 and died in 3 December 1894. He was a Scottish novelist and travel writer. Most noted for Treasure Island. His very famous book was there, that is Treasure Island. Other books which he had are Kidnapped and Child's Garden of Verses. These were some of the books which he wrote. Then about this poem, the summary of the poem goes something like this. In the poem My Shadow, the poet Robert Louis Stevenson reflects the way in which a child might think of a shadow. The child is filled with curiosity about the way in which his shadow goes around him and jumps into his bed before him. Also, he is filled with wonder at the way his shadow grows and stays close to him. Now, let us see the poem, My Shadow. I have a little shadow that goes in and out with me, and what can be the use of him is more than I can see. Now, if you see here, the last word are rhyming word. The first line, last word is me, second line, last word is see. Now, these are called rhyming words where similar sound is uttered while pronouncing the end word of the line. I have a little shadow that goes in and out with me, and what can be the use of him is more than I can see. He is very, very like me from the heels up to the head, and I see him jump before me when I jump into my bed. Again, you see, head and bed are rhyming words. The funniest thing about him is the way he likes to grow, not at all like proper children, which is always very slow. So what funny thing is sees in this shadow? The way his shadow grows. Suddenly his shadow becomes very long or say tall, and sometimes becomes very short and small. So that is not like ordinary children, because ordinary children, normal children's growth is very slow. So that is what he considered funny thing about his shadow. 4. He sometimes shoots up taller like an India rubber ball. India rubber ball is a small ball that bounces high when it hits a surface. And he sometimes gets so little that there's none of him at all. So sometimes the shadow becomes very long and sometimes very short. That is what he observes about his shadow. Next, he hasn't got a notion. He hasn't got a notion means he does not know of how children ought to play, and he can only make a fool of me in every sort of way. He stays so close beside me, he is a coward you can see. I would think same to stick to Nursie as that shadow sticks to me. Now Nursie is actually was the name for a woman who looked after children in a family in the olden days. So that in the past, Nursie was the name for a woman who looked after children in a family, like the nurse. So I would think shame to stick to Nursi as that shadow sticks to me. So he says that his shadow is so coward that he always remains close to him and doesn't leave him, as is done by a small child who sticks to his her or her nursery because of being scared. Now, one morning, very early, before the sun was up, I rose and found the shining dew on every buttercup. But my lazy little shadow, like an errant sleepy head, errant is an old or poetic word meaning complete or total. It is used for making a noun stronger. So it is a poetic word used by poets. But my lazy little shadow, like an errant sleepy head, had stayed at home behind me and was fast asleep in bed. Robert Louis Stevenson. Now, in this last stanza, the child says that one morning, early morning, before sun had risen, he woke up and came out, but he found his shadow missing, and he considered that as the shadow still sleeping in the bed. So why the shadow was not visible? Because shadows are formed because of the sun's light or because of the source of a light. So when the sun was not there, how can the shadow appear? So that is what he means in the last stanza. One morning very early before the sun was up, I rose and found the shining dew on every buttercup, but my lazy little shadow, like an errant sleepy head, had stayed at home behind me and was fast asleep in bed. That means he was still sleeping in his bed. He was absent that morning. Okay, this is all about the poem. Rest, you will get the question answers. Thank you.